Welcome to another episode of BHP Book Club. I am your host, Kelly Morgan. Today I'm excited because we are speaking with author Susan Johnson. Susan is the author of Some Dreams Are Worth Keeping, a memoir of my bipolar journey. She is an accomplished inspirational speaker and guest blogger for mental health magazine, BP Hope. I'm so glad she's decided to be a part of the podcast. Let's welcome to our ever-growing book club, author Susan Johnson. Susan, welcome to the book club. I'm so excited that you decided to join today and share your writing journey. How are you?
I'm excellent and I'm really excited to be here with you, so thanks for having me.
You are welcome. I love to talk to authors. I've spoke to so many, and I'm always fascinated by the journey. Like probably 8 out of 10 people I talk to say, I didn't even know I wanted to be a writer, right?
And I would be one of those people.
Right, and everybody's like, I just kind of fell into it. So what is your story? Like, how did you become a published author?
It began, well, first of all, I have bipolar disorder. Or do you know what bipolar disorder is?
I only know what I've read or seen on TV, so I can't say I'm an expert. So please tell us what that is.
Bipolar disorder, it's a mood disorder. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain, which causes euphoric highs, known as manias, and devastating lows to the point of suicide.
Okay.
So I was diagnosed at 19 and I'm now in my mid 40s. I look pretty good, right?
You look fantastic.
And I had just gotten married 2007. And all of a sudden I started having flashbacks of my life, some PTSD, just had a past that I couldn't escape. So I decided that I needed to write my story. I had no idea how to write my story or even where to begin. So I looked and stumbled upon a how to write a memoir workshop at the Gold Coast Casino. I live in Las Vegas. And I bought a book and I went home and I was ready to write. Yeah, let's do this. And then came the writing part. And it was like, oh my goodness. Trying to be self-disciplined and to find the time to writing was such a challenge. I work as a special education assistant in an elementary school. So the last thing that you want to do when you get home is, write a chapter on the darkest days of your entire life.
Right.
I ended up enrolling in a CSN, which is our community college, how to write a memoir class. And that's how I got started.
That is funny because you really went the distance as far as going to a seminar and then taking a class. And so that taught you how to take your thoughts and put them on paper so that they make sense to everybody else reading it, right? It's a story. But how do you go from writing your story to publishing your story? That's a whole different thing. I've got tons of stuff that I've written that nobody has ever seen but me, right?
And that was my intent. I really honestly was okay with nobody reading it.
But your intent was to publish?
No, it was not to publish.
So what made you say, okay, I want to share this with the world? That is a big leap.
So it took 6 years to write the book, and the entire story is handwritten.
Oh, so you wrote longhand.
Yeah, I wrote longhand because I just felt that I was more inspired.
Okay, I see that.
So at the end of that, I thought to myself, hey, this might be able to help people, and it might be able to break the stigma that I live with. I thought, hey, let's put it out there. Plus I had a lot of encouragement from the mentor that I met taking that class at the college. And he's like, Susie, you have what it takes to have a published book. You go for it. So
you decide to share the book with the world. How does that happen? What do you do?
I had a connection. I have an aunt and uncle in North Carolina, and they happen to have a pastor friend who opened up a publishing company. He read my manuscript, and overnight, I became a published author.
Wow. So you didn't have to go through the trials and tribulations of self-publishing or seeking out a publisher. You actually had a connection. Well, good for you. And now
I had a connection, but that was kind of a nightmare, to tell you the truth. The small publisher, he wasn't giving me the royalties on time. The first edition was not properly edited the way that I knew that it was. We think that like the wrong files got published.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was a nightmare. It was an absolute, so at the end of, it was a few years, I had enough. So I self-published in 2018.
So you pulled the book back. You got it back from the publisher,
yep.
And then you self-published it.
And then I self-published.
And so was that a more, should I say, that's an experience that you had a lot of control over, right?
I did, but I had, like we were talking, I had no idea how to do this, where to start, and I'm not computer savvy, when it comes to this. I mean, how do you know what to do? Luckily, I have a lot of author friends here in Las Vegas, and people were able to send me to the right people to help me do it, get this out there again.
Well, that is fantastic. And now you're a published author and it's out there. So the big piece of the puzzle is the marketing. What have you done to promote and market your book?
I do book signings. I write for Bipolar Hope magazine, BP Hope. So a lot of people read my blogs, like my blogs, and they end up buying the book. I recently did a TEDx talk. Do you know what that is?
I do. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yes, that was 14 months. You want to talk about stressful in my life? Very stressful. But go check it out on YouTube. It's called Having a Mental Illness is Not a Death Sentence. And people are they're watching that and then they're going and buying the book. And podcasts like this, thank you. I'm also on another platform and doing a lot of podcasts. And then there's always, before COVID, a lot of book signings.
Fantastic. Yes. So that seems to be the magic or the missing piece to the puzzle once you become an author. Because some people, like myself, guilty, thought that once I got my book on Amazon, that was it. Y'all was gonna find it. Y'all was gonna buy it. Y'all was gonna love it. And I was gonna be on book tour in 3 months, and it was gonna be great, and my illusions were shattered, right? When I figured out that is not how it works.
Yeah, I have another author friend that's recently published, and that was what she asked me. She's like, who does your marketing? I'm like, I don't pay people. I'd love to be able to pay somebody, but no, I do it myself. And I've gotten better at it through the years, I must say.
I think most authors who are self-published, kind of figure out the marketing piece. And really it's about how much time and effort and energy do you want to put into promoting your book. You're the one that has to make the phone call or the email to get to the book signing, right? There's nobody. Absolutely. You don't have this assistant doing this stuff for you.
Be nice, right?
And I have had publicists on the book club podcast, and publicist is a great way to go. And actually, they're not as expensive as one may think. So, a publicist, you can probably work with somebody who wouldn't necessarily break the bank, and they can help you get a little bit more exposure. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you as the author. How hungry are you? How quote unquote famous
and how much time do you want to put in this?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I was saying, I have a day job, so it's not like I get to go tours around the United States and just quit my day job. I love that. That's the dream.
So I'm interested in the book, Susan. Tell us a little bit about the book. I know that you said that it's your journey with bipolar disorder, and you thought, that your story would help somebody. So, what events can you share without, giving away the entire book? What events can you share that somebody may say, yeah, okay, I feel like that too? Or, what can you share with us about the book and your experiences?
The book begins when I was experiencing mania for the first time. So mania is amazing. You feel higher than any drug on the planet. So I started with the cruise that I was on at 19 and all these crazy things that happened. And then I had a dream of being an elementary school teacher. So the next part is my college journey and all the ups and downs. And then the third part is when I lived in Virginia and hit rock bottom. And at that point, my parents came and SOS'd me here to Las Vegas. And it's just about me finding success and overcoming obstacles.
Do you find that when you tell people that you have bipolar disorder, that they tend to maybe go with the stigma of what's out there? And how can we help break the stigma?
I think just by doing what we're doing right now, speaking out, being honest, saying it's okay. It's okay to suffer from depression, anxiety, bipolar, whatever the mental illness is.
So when you say the mania, and it just made me think, is the mania like 24/7?
Yeah.
Is it just like a faucet that's on, just on all the way, all the time?
Yeah. It's like being in the Energizer bunny.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like you can do things. It's crazy.
Did you wonder like what is going on? Because didn't you notice that people around you aren't having the same, they're not up here with you?
When you're in it, you're just like, this is, I never want to get down from this. However, my mom is a nurse and bipolar is genetic. So she knew after that cruise, because my uncle has it and my grandmother suffered depressions and mental breakdowns. She knew, oh my goodness, she's in mania. We got to get her to a doctor.
Wow. And then if the manias are really high and euphoric, then the lows have got to be the lows of the lows.
Yeah. And I take medication and that keeps me even. So I don't experience. But there are triggers for sure that
So do you have other ways that you can that helps you cope outside of medication? Do you have other things that you do?
Absolutely. Exercise, therapy, writing, hiking, spending time with friends, hobbies, all those types of things help.
I'm always so, what's the word I want to say? Fascinated with people who write their memoirs, because you're putting yourself out there for all to judge and see.
It's terrifying.
And I would imagine that it's terrifying when you write fiction, right? And you put it out there. I got to imagine what it's like to write about yourself and your experiences. And if you're being completely honest and just kind of bearing your soul,
I did.
Printing it, and then saying, here, read it. And if you want to, leave a review.
Oh,
right?
No. And I must say, I'm quite happy with most reviews. But, there's one. I mean, don't we all have that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you put yourself out there in any form, be it a book, music, movies, whatever it is that you do, whatever art or craft that you do, yes, you are subjecting yourself to scrutiny, right? People are going to say yay or nay. And not everybody's going to like the book. Not everybody's going to be able to connect with what you're saying.
Exactly.
But I think if it can help one person understand, then you've done your job, right?
I've had some great reviews from people with bipolar saying, thank you for sharing our story. This is our story, not just your story. And that was like, okay, that's why I did this. And it's also helping a lot of families. Like, I never thought how many families it's helped, because they're hearing my story and they're saying, oh my goodness, I have a son or daughter, and now I know how they feel.
And now you've kind of bridged understanding. So ultimately, Susan, your book is there to help people.
Yes. And to inspire people and to educate people. It doesn't have to just be for people that have bipolar disorder. You know, it's just an inspirational.
I would think somebody who doesn't would want to learn about what that's like so they have a better understanding.
Yes.
So now that the book is out there, it's published, you know, you're selling it, you're getting reviews, all that good stuff. Are you an author or are you one and done? Is this it for you as far as writing goes, or are you got the author bug, and are you going to become a 2 published author or a 3?
Question. That has been the question the past couple of years. And it's like, well, do I do like a 3rd edition? You know, with the TEDx chapter, do I see what happens in the next couple of years? That thought has crossed my mind. I think I'll end up doing one about my aging parents.
Okay.
But that may take another 10 years.
So are you a nonfiction writer?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You know, you're fiction, right?
Yes, I am.
And all my friends here in Las Vegas are fiction writers. So I mean, it is just, I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
I can't do it. We don't know how you do it because I'm not putting all of Kelly's stuff in a book and then putting it out there. So kudos to you. It's easier for me to make up a fantasy life and put it on paper than to put my own down. And at least for everybody else to see. I can write all day just for me, right? My personal, private, whatever. But to put it out there, it takes a special something to do that. It really does. You know, so I think it's very commendable. So have you ever thought about putting your book on an audiobook?
Yes, I have, but I just need somebody to help me do it. And the price and everything, and the investments, and it's always like, well, how much are you going to get back? But I would like to.
Well, you know, Amazon has the audio book side of their publishing house. Mm-hmm. Right. And so you can go there. It's really geared towards self-publishers. And I'll tell you what I've learned because I'm in the middle of doing my own audiobook. So I'll tell you what I've learned. If you use Amazon's audiobook program, the other side, like they have the KP side, now they have the audiobook side. You have different options. You can find somebody to record your book. And if you agree to a 50-50 split, of the proceeds, that's what you pay them. So you don't give them any money. It's a 50-50 split of the proceeds of your book. There are tons of people on there who are maybe not professional voiceover people, but are learning to do voiceover, just like you're learning to be an author, right? So that's your first book. You could be their first audiobook. Do you see what I'm saying? It helps both people get the exposure or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So if you get the opportunity, go check it out because it's not as expensive as you think it is.
Very good. Well, another interesting fact is I've never read the book since it's been written.
Really?
Yeah. It's just something that I lived through, and I honestly, you know, I don't want to go there again. So.
But you wouldn't read it. You would hire somebody to read it. But just
no, I'm just saying. Like, on a side note, I've never read my own book since it's been out.
That's funny. Well, you know what? I don't necessarily go back and read mine either. Once they're in print, right? To get it there, I will read it over and over if it's going through editing. But once it's in a print form, you're right. I haven't read mine either. That's funny. I never thought about it. But I think if you were to do an audiobook, you would open up to so many more readers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who are readers who just feel, or whatever the reason, they just don't pick up a book. They listen.
My godmother is actually one of them. She refuses to read it.
But they will love and listen to an audiobook.
I will look into that.
You know, and I just think that you could reach so many more people with the information that is so valuable that you would just open yourself up to a whole new crop of readers, listeners, I should say. Yeah. So that's my one piece of advice to you.
Thank you.
So if you could give an aspiring author a piece of advice, somebody who is writing their book and doesn't really know what to do, what would you say to them?
Well, we talked about how important it is to maybe take a writing class, but I think for me, it was finding an accountability partner. I had a girlfriend that met with me once a month. She's like, how you doing on this? You're not working on it. Come on, go, go, go. And at the end, she was one of the main reasons that I kept going.
Yeah, that accountability can be hard because you can get very frustrated with the process and maybe just want to give up altogether.
Exactly. So I think that was very, very encouraging. And also to structure time to write, maybe in your schedule.
Yeah, that's probably important as well.
Those are the things.
I agree. I would write when it came to me. Because when you're a fiction writer, it just kind of comes to you,
well,
right?
That's the same thing for nonfiction for me. It was
because
like
it just come to you. Because you got to kind of figure out, you know what happened, but what you see in your head and what you put on paper are two different things. Yes. It's hard to sometimes describe a situation, I have found, in writing. I can see it. I can mentally see it in my mind, but how do I get you to see what I'm seeing? That's the key.
I used a lot of songs.
Did you?
I did. I love music. So there are a lot of musical references in it.
Yeah, and people can relate to that as well. Yes. Susan, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I am so happy that your book is out there. It's called Some Dreams Are Worth Keeping by Susan Johnson, right? Yep, right. By Susan Johnson. It is available on Amazon. It is the story of her journey with bipolar disorder. If you decide, Susan, in the future that there's another book in there about aging parents, I would love for you to come back and share it with us, because a lot of people who are in their 40s and 50s are taking care of their aging parents.
That's right.
So it's always something that I think is that people sometimes deal with, but maybe don't have anybody to talk to, or maybe afraid people don't understand. So, when that book when you manifest that book, please come back and share it with us.
Thank you. I would love to come back. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for listening to another episode of BHP Book Club. I have been your host, Kelly Morgan. We just wrapped up with author Susan Johnson and talked about her memoir, Some Dreams Are Worth Keeping, a memoir of my bipolar journey, which is available on Amazon and her website. All the information is in the podcast description. If you are interested in being on the podcast and you're an author or someone who supports authors, like an editor or a graphic designer, I would love to have you on the podcast. Visit my website at brightheadedpublishing.com. That's brightheadedpublishing.com. Next week, another author, a new member to our book club. But until then, keep writing.